This instructional golf technique video will transform your life forever. The first hole is a par 5, measuring 472 meters. In your opinion, what are the 3 skills that make a good golfer? Please write it in the comments below. In my opinion, that's low point control, good distance, and a repeatable curve. Shot 2, par 5. There are 210 meters left, and for me, it's a 4-iron. Wow, the rough is quite thick. The first point I want to address right away is low point control. And that might fit quite well after my slightly fat second shot here on the par 5. Shot 3 is now a short pitch distance wedge shot. It's 60 meters and I've decided on a 56-degree sand wedge. Yeah, that could be a little long. Because regardless of whether it's a driver, an iron shot, or a shot with the putter, it is always important to control the low point. It is always important to control the angle of attack. Long putt for birdie. On the par 5. Yeah, unfortunately that's not in. Nevertheless, it should be a par to start. Yes, there it is. Next up is a challenging par 3 hole, and it's 130 meters long from the tee to the green. For this particular shot, I've set up a specific corridor here, which is designed to test your accuracy and control. That means I have the ball to target line here in red, or rather in red, white, red. Then I have a 90-degree line to that, which is exactly at the height of my sternum, or rather in the middle between my feet. And then I have a line here that is on the inside of my left heel, or at the height of my left shoulder. And now, so that I can hit the ball really cleanly, I have to do the following. I have to move my sternum forward from the center, and I have to move my belt buckle forward from the center, just like my sternum. Ideally, far enough so that I arrive here at the level of the front line. Because only when I'm here in front in the setup and stay here in front do I have the opportunity to hit the ball first and then the ground. Most of my students, my golfers, do the following. They start very centered and are often unable to get forward in time, which would result in hitting the ground first and topped shots. That means the next time you go out, whether on the course or on the range, you do this, like so. And then you just focus on placing your belt buckle and your sternum to the left, right here, of the ball. And that the sternum and the belt buckle, I would say you can also call these 2 points the lower and upper swing center, that exactly these 2 points always stay to the left of the ball. And you'll notice you'll be taking divots that are to the left of the ball closer to the target. You'll have fewer shots where you hit the ground first, and you'll have fewer topped shots. And your ball striking will improve significantly. That means the first skill you should have if you want to become a good golfer is the ability to really hit the ball first and then the ground. So, let's see if I can do it now. Par 3, 130 meters, I have a pitching wedge in my hand. This would now be a neutral setup in the sense that this is how most people I know stand over the ball. And then I go and push both my belt buckle and my sternum forward. As a result, my left leg bends more than my right, and because of that, I already have more pressure on my front foot than on my back foot in the setup. And because of that, I should hopefully be able to take the divot to the left of the ball now. neutral, or rather the usual setup, then forward and stay forward. That's not a bad shot, and I hope you can see it quite well. Here, this is where my divot starts. Here's the line. The ball was there, and here, about 10 centimeters after it, is where the ground contact begins. And that's something that very few golfers really know, and accordingly, there are always problems with ball contact. The ball had a little too much spin, and so I have a very, very long putt for birdie. So now you are able to take the divot to the left of the ball. That means, in my opinion, part 1 of low point control has been successfully completed. And the second point, when it comes to the topic of low point control, is that you can determine the height, or rather, the depth of the divot. And you can determine that very easily by saying the more tilt, the more upper body tilt you have, the shallower your angle of attack will be, the less ground you'll take. With a putt, you also have the goal of hitting the ball slightly on the upswing. So what does that mean when applied to the swing method? It means nothing other than this, that you now go ahead, place the ball about here under your left eye, and you push your pelvis just slightly forward. 2 centimeters, so that your pelvis is about here at ball height, and as a result, your upper body tilts in just slightly. And that in turn then leads to your club approaching the ball on an upswing. You need that for putting, you need that for driving, and sometimes you also need it for bunker shots, depending on the condition of the sand. This means that this here, how the lower and the upper swing centers are positioned relative to each other, influences the angle of attack. And the angle of attack is very, very important, because with it you can also determine a great deal when it comes to the direction. But I will get to that in a moment. All right, long putt for birdie. It's really long. It's really long, and now it's breaking a little. Yeah, not a bad attempt. What's very, very important, besides my par putt, which I'll have in a moment, please share this video with all of your golf friends. Because it's very, very important that everyone knows exactly how to play golf correctly. And the second thing that's very, very important, please subscribe to my YouTube channel so that in the future you won't miss any more of my videos. My goal is, I'll say it again, to crack the 100,000 subscriber mark. And if that should ever be the case, yes, then maybe I'll invite you to join me. Because I want to invite one of my viewers to come to Graz in Styria for 2 days and play with me. Of course, all of that will also be available to see on YouTube. That means please encourage all your golf friends, your family, and whoever else to subscribe to my YouTube channel so that I can one day crack the 100,000 subscriber mark. Thank you very much. So this is now the putt for par, just slightly from right to left. I push my pelvis minimally forward so that I hit the ball just slightly on the upswing. That's low point control, and that's also important when putting. All right, and that's another par on the card. Next up is a par 4, 374 meters.
You could try to play, but you're never gonna beat me. Look the other way, what I'm doing ain't easy. Bloody hands stained from the people who deceive me. Muddy hands break through the chains, go free me. Looking for change, looking for pain. Pulling a mob, pushing a train. I'll never stop, stick to a lane. Pick up the...
And we'll continue with the topic of low point control. And we'll continue with the driver. With the driver, it's very, very important to set up properly. Most people make this mistake here as well. You stand, let's call it, very neutrally. Then the weight stays on the right back foot for too long, and then what happens is the pelvis opens too early. You start swinging to the left, you come from the side, you can probably see it better, over the top. So from the outside in, and the ball starts to curve to the right. That means the slice will become your best friend. It's all the more important that you pay close attention to your setup, especially with the driver. Because with the driver, it is truly all the more important that you position yourself cleanly in the setup in order to avoid the slice, in order to avoid that outside in swing path. And the whole thing is actually relatively simple. It works like this. You get into your usual setup where the ball is probably here, by your front foot. That's correct. And then you go, and without moving your head or your shoulders, which should really be here, parallel to the target line, without moving those 2 points, you just push your pelvis forward as far as it can go. And you try to stay in exactly this position. Because by doing this, your lower swing center, your belt buckle is at ball height. And because of that, the upper body tilts in a little, which means that your upper swing center, your chest bone, your sternum, ends up to the right of the ball. And if you're in this position at impact, then you'll be able to A, hit the ball on the upswing, and B, you'll be able to swing into out, that is, from inside to outside. And C, you'll be able to get rid of your slice immediately. That means this little thing, this small adjustment in the setup, this small adaptation, will make your slice a thing of the past immediately. I can guarantee you that. So, like this. I'm well aligned, and now I'm pushing my pelvis forward as far as it will go. Now I'm at the limit here, and I'll try to stay there. All right, a little draw, a perfect drive for me. Depending on the ball's position, I now adjust my sternum to the lower swing center with the wedge, with the sand wedge. That means I have a 90-meter shot here, but my ball is in the rough. The grass is growing against me, which means it's anything but a good lie. I would probably even describe it as a bad lie. So what does that mean? I now need a steep angle of attack. That means I'm now going to shift both my lower swing center, my belt buckle, and my upper swing center, my sternum, to the left of the ball. And I really try to stay here to hit the ball as directly as possible. If I really stay in this position, hitting the ground should be almost impossible. This means I'm now coming at the ball much more steeply. If the ball had a very good lie on the fairway, for example, and I wanted to hit the ball as high as possible over a tree or whatever, then I would go and shift my belt buckle to the left and my sternum would stay a little behind. But only so far that it's still, and this is very, very important, to the left of the ball. Because if my sternum or my belt buckle, one of the two swing centers, were to the right of the ball, then I would hit the ground or hit a thin, topped ball. That means, depending on the ball's lie, I vary my swing centers. And since the ball has a really bad lie, which I'm not really happy about, to be honest, I have to move both swing centers to the left. And I try to keep both swing centers here at the front. Yeah, I hope you can see that. That was a really steep angle of attack. And I ended up digging out a proper divot. Yeah. It should be like that, it can be like that, it has to be like that. But in any case, the thing should be to the left of the ball. So where's the pitch mark? It's here. Of course, please always repair pitch marks. And even if you see someone else's pitch mark here, yes, you can repair that one too. So putt for birdie. A difficult putt. We have one of the most difficult greens on our course here. I have a 4 to 5% slope from right to left. That means, in my case, I have to aim significantly to the right. I'll take 5%, since it's also a little downhill. And downhill, the putt is hit more slowly. That means it has more time to roll, it has more time to break. So, this would be an outsider's birdie. But I would really like to make par. Yeah, still a little too short, what a shame. Nevertheless, the putt for par in this scenario is actually achievable. Yes, and that's the next par. Let's continue on a 316 meter long par 4 or on a 316 meter short par 4. Now it's about the topic of distance. Now it's about the topic of length. And what you have to know, first of all, from my point of view, when it comes to length, is that your arms in the golf swing move 6 times as fast as your body. That means swings that look like this are usually visually fast, but measured, they are slow. That means, instead of pulling your arms in towards you very early in the downswing, I would like to ask you to hit a few balls, make a few swings, where you pay attention that your left arm stays as straight as possible. Your left arm works here into this position. And the better you can do that with a straight left arm, the faster your club head will get. And the farther you can then hit your ball as a result. So much for the topic of distance. What is of course essential when it comes to the topic of distance is a good, clean contact. But for that, we need our 2 swing centers. And I think I've already talked enough about that. So, all right. Par 4, 313 meters. Sorry, it's 316 meters. Being able to read is a clear advantage. And I'll approach it again. I push my pelvis forward to the limit, and I feel the extended left arm. Yes, the direction is ideal. And the contact wasn't bad either. That means, to repeat once more, when it comes to length, the abduction and adduction of the left arm is very, very important. That means try this at home, keep the left arm straight, bring it from your perspective as a right-handed golfer to the right, and then as far as possible to the left. That means you really go for it and keep the arm really extended, but let it get loud and let it whistle, and make sure that your arm moves much faster than your body. That's how you'll be able to generate a lot of length. So, shot 2 on the par 4, a short pitch, actually not a difficult shot. Yes, slightly to the left, but the length should be quite good, I think. Exactly, the length was good and still a very, very difficult putt awaits me. Since the putt is really goes steeply downhill. I don't know if you can see it on camera, but this one is going to be really fast. So putt for birdie, steeply downhill. So what's going to happen now? Come on! Yes, there it is. The first birdie of the day. Another factor when it comes to distance is the so-called extension. Translated, I would say it means standing up. That means what's very, very important in the swing is that we really stand up at the right moment. Because most people try to stay down for a long time. That would look something like this. And with that, a lot of distance is lost. To execute a proper golf swing, you need 3 factors. Extension, standing up, rotation, turn, and also tilt. I would say tilting. What do I mean by that? The body has to, on the one hand, as just discussed, stand up. On the other hand, it has to rotate. And last but not least, it has to tilt to the right degree. And if these 3 factors fit together, then, for example, during the backswing, your head is completely still. If you, so to speak, stand up, rotate, and tilt to the right degree, then your head stays exactly in position. Under no circumstances would I ask you, as many try to do, to keep your head down and maybe just rotate, because then a lot of distance is lost. And if you want to gain distance, then on the next shot you make, the one you want to hit particularly far, you should think not only about your left arm being straight, that your left arm gets really long towards the target. No. You should also think about your belt buckle being your foremost point at the end of the swing. That means the belt buckle is significantly further forward than, for example, your chest. And that is the so-called extension. And with that, the club head can gain speed. So, now we continue on a 307-meter long par 4. I have to wait a moment until the greenkeeper gives me a signal. Here too, I can only appeal to the common sense of most golfers, namely to make sure that you never endanger a greenkeeper. And then I'd probably be ready now. Exactly, it looks pretty good now. And I'll try to keep my sternum back and bring my belt buckle forward. Yeah, I think that's not a bad one. 110 meters are left to the flag. I have a 48-degree wedge in my hand. Once again, just a quick recap. On the one hand, we need extension to accelerate the club. We need body rotation and we need tilt, so the tilting of the body. And if all three factors come together, then you'll get a really good swing out of it. Yeah, that one's not bad at all. Just slightly left of the flag and even a little long. So this is the putt for birdie. Here again, the distance that I need to cover is relatively long and quite noticeable. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 meters in total, each step covering a significant amount of ground. And I'll take this opportunity to carefully take a look at the area around the hole, observing the surroundings and paying close attention to any details that might be important. Yeah, the ball should actually have relatively little break. Let's see what really happens. I don't feel much and I don't see anything either. All right, then we'll play it relatively straight. I'll just push my pelvis forward slightly and here we go. Get in there. Too bad. It wasn't a bad attempt, maybe it was pulled just slightly. That's why it was a bit to the left, but nevertheless, that wasn't a bad putt. And with that, we come to the last point, which is very, very important. We come to the repeatable curve. That means, and I think I'm adding this because most people want to have it, I want to show you now how you're able to always, really always, without exception, hit a repeatable small draw. That means a ball that starts to the right and curves just slightly to the left. What you must not do under any circumstances is roll your forearms. Because if you were to roll your forearms, and that's why I've set up a small station here where this red, white, red alignment stick is supposed to represent the ball target line, if you were to roll your forearms, what happens with the club face? It arrives at the ball closed. And if the club face arrives at the ball closed, your ball flight will A, be extremely low, and B, your ball will always start to the left because your ball starts where your club face is pointing at impact. That means if you do that, you will never in your life be able to hit a draw. I can promise you that. Because with a draw, and most of my viewers should actually know this, the ball should, where does it start? Exactly, to the right. And for the ball to start right, you need an open club face to the ball to target line. And for you to succeed, I'd like you to understand the following. We have our left arm extended here. From the shoulder down to the club face, we have a straight line. And everything we attack to the right of the line, so here, will always be slightly from the inside, with a slightly open club face in relation to the ball to target line. This means the ball will draw every time here. However, if you go over it with the club face, or rather with the club head, so you get into this position, then the ball will start to the left and in most cases also curve to the right. This means the ball will become a fade. Long story short, if you want to hit a draw, you of course pay attention to your two swing centers as already mentioned. But more importantly, you also make sure that you have enough shaft lean in the setup as well as at impact. And the more shaft lean you have, the more draw you will get. Why? Because with the shaft lean, I hope you can see it on the camera. The club face opens, which causes your ball to start further to the right. So it's very important to understand the know-how behind this. For example, if you're not using a 2-iron, but a pitching wedge, and you play the ball a bit further back in your stance with more shaft lean, with a steeper angle of attack, you will get even more leftward curve, left spin, draw. This means I even recommend opening the club face slightly, as mentioned, relative to the ball to target line, so you simply don't get too much curve. The two yellow alignment sticks here are meant to show me on one side at this station where my club face needs to go. And the second one, that would be the hand path here. It's about, okay, where is my hand actually swinging? Where are my arms swinging? And I always recommend one thing, that you really understand that the club head naturally moves inwards. We swing in a circle, it moves inwards, but the club head still stays in front of the hands. The hands go inwards because, as already mentioned, we are swinging in a circle. At the top of the backswing, I would like the left arm to be offset by about 30 degrees inwards. Yes, here. Because that would be an ideal position to naturally have a swing path that goes slightly from inside to outside. But what's very important is to try to play your draw, your curve, with the shaft lean. Because as soon as the club overtakes the hands, the ball starts to the left. And it will, I can guarantee you, 100% not be a draw anymore. What few people know, and I might even demonstrate it now, you can also hit a high draw with a 2-iron from the middle. By simply going and pushing my pelvis forward properly. This also creates a nice shaft lean. So, I push my pelvis forward and my sternum stays relatively behind and still in front of the ball. I hope you know what I mean. Because as mentioned earlier in the video, the sternum should never be to the right of the ball if you want to hit the ball off the ground. Because that would result in hitting the ground 100% of the time. So far so good. So this is hole 1, a par 4. I'm playing the ball from the middle with the 2-iron. It will still be a high draw by just going bang and pushing my pelvis forward. Perfect high draw. So repeatability is, as we know, the be-all and end-all for a good golfer. That's why we'll do the whole thing again from the down the line perspective. I go push my pelvis forward, sternum stays back. Yeah, yes, a perfect high draw with the 2-iron hit from the middle. So, shot 2, the little pitch from the downhill lie. Here too, it's very important to keep both of your swing centers to the left of the ball and to see where the club would make contact. The ball should land somewhere at the front of the green and then roll out towards the flag. Yes, that's not bad at all, I would say.